Hi everyone. So we just finished looking at Alexander Calder. We spent some time reviewing the project requirements, and now you guys are ready to get started. So the very first step is actually going to be to get your theme in your groups, and I'll give everybody a card. This is the one I picked. Nature is the theme. The shape is organic, so kind of like curvy. Think like leaves and things you might see in nature. And then color scheme is monochromatic. So you can decide as a group what color you want to use, and then you would use all different shades of that color. So yes, we can use paint if we need to, or just the markers, in different shades of that color, whatever it is. I'm going to do the grayscale, black and white for mine. Okay, so the very first thing you're going to want to do is some sketching individually. Everybody has paper on your desk. I'm using my sketchbook. You have paper that you could put into your binder as a sketchbook. And what I did was I just, in my sketchbook, drew some basic shapes and thought about what material I wanted to use. So this design is using wire and like leaves. I was thinking just like leaf shapes. And I planned out, the balance, how it might work. Keep in mind these spin as it's in the air hanging. So one side is long and the other side is short. And that's kind of how I planned that. There's different levels. See? So you're each going to be responsible for doing at least one level, but you can add more. I kept it simple and did 4 levels. You could have 8. You could have more or less than that. That's up to you guys. I am going to have 4 layers of, in this one, leaf shapes. So they'll change sizes and they'll be glued together, and the wire would be glued in between. Even if you want 2 layers, which would be the wire goes in between, you can't do just 1 layer. It has to at least be 2 and you glue it together. So if you want this one shape, you're going to need to cut out 2 that size, and then you would glue them together with the wire inside. Otherwise it might come off and it would look sloppy. So I did this again in case you wanted them more straight. And this is similar to the video we just watched with how to balance the mobile once you are done constructing it. So I did the same type of design but using the dowel rods. That's going to be an individual decision or a group decision. You'll need to decide if you want them curvy or straight. Both are acceptable. It's your choice as a group. You'll probably have to take a vote and decide. So after you come up with your plan, all right, as an individual, you're going to share your ideas with your classmates. And together you'll decide what shapes you want to incorporate, and then you'll incorporate everybody's ideas. So that way, it's everybody's voice is in the mobile sculpture. Okay, so what I did next, after my plan was done, is I just drew out some shapes, and I might need to add more on newsprint. And I used, and I'll give you guys each table some of these, this water-soluble graphite stick, because on newsprint, pencil kind of pierces the paper, and so does pen, so you need something softer. And this isn't as messy as charcoal is, so I'll give you guys these. And what I simply did was I just kind of drew out some designs that, and I didn't overthink it, guys. Don't, when you're doing this, don't overthink it. With organic, you want it to be kind of free-flowing. You want the shapes to feel natural. With geometric, you might need to get out the rulers. You might need to print out some stencils and of certain shapes, especially if you get a little bit more complex. But with organic, you want to just kind of be free. And what's nice about these water-soluble graphite sticks is you can just kind of, not erase anything. You just fix the shape. All right, so after you have some basic shapes drawn and you're ready to go, you can cut them out carefully because you want them to be your stencil. So what we're gonna do is make a stencil here. Sometimes I like, you know, to remove a piece so it's easier to handle. Now I'm just gonna cut out one shape and then show you how to trace it and cut it with an X-Acto blade. But I would cut out all these, but just for demonstration purposes. And I think this is good, but maybe I'd want this part right here to come in a little bit more. So this is where, you know, you're the artist, you make the decisions. Yeah, I think that looks a little better and that would look pretty nice. Maybe a little notch on this side too. There we go. All right, so once you're happy with your design, then what you're gonna do is decide which medium you wanna use. So we have foam core, which is kind of thick. We have mat board, which is thick as well and flexible, not as wide. Okay, so that's an option. I'm gonna use both. And then we have just like a thicker cardstock. The thicker cardstock is nice because you can, you know, shape it. So then what you would do is put your shapes onto the mat board or whatever you're deciding, and you're going to want to trace it and then cut that out with an X-Acto blade. So that's the next step I need to show you. So I'm going to trace this on black. You might want to use a white, you know, like pencil or charcoal. Now, how many did I say we need at the minimum? You're right, 2. Decided that I cut that too much, so I just made it a little bigger. When you're tracing, you can make those decisions. All right, so I would need to cut out 2 of these, but I'll just do one at a time and then I'll trace this again, and I'm only gonna do one for demo purposes. Now, each table is going to get an X-Acto blade kit. Okay, there's 5 X-Acto blades in here, and they'll need to be, and 5 cutting mats, and there will need to be 5 X-Acto blades and 5 cutting mats before I dismiss you. All right. The blade should be good. If there's an issue, let me know, like if you have a dull blade, because I can always change it out for you. All right, so very important, cut on a mat, okay? All right, so the other thing that's important is don't like have your knife like this upright. You could like stab yourself or somebody else, and no hospital trips, please. All right, be careful. If you're not using, put it down, okay? All right, so when you're cutting, you're going to want to hold it down, blade down, and make nice, careful cuts. I am pressing down. If you're cutting a geometric shape, you can cut against a ruler. So what do I mean by that? You would put the ruler down and then cut against the ruler. So that's the easiest thing for geometric shapes. You might have to do several passes, which means, you know, it doesn't cut through the very first time. So this took me a couple passes. All right, so back to my shape. So I am going to when I feel like I'm losing control, I need to stop, take a break, and maybe turn the design around so I can get a better cutting angle. This takes control, this takes focus. You really need to make sure that you are watching what you're doing and having a nice steady hand. you have the paper, scissors are fine, but if you have the mat board or the foam core, you're going to need to use the blades. Okay, so we're getting there. Now don't rip it off. If it didn't come off, like this didn't come off, I have to do another pass. Because otherwise you'll ruin your design, ruin your shape. There we go. So it should come off nice and easily, like that. Now, interesting, the negative space could be kind of cool too if you wanted to trace around it and use something with that. So I don't know, you can decide. So I would need 2 of these. And then the next video, not today, ooh, it looks like a bird. Ooh, I like that. So I might change my design up. Something like that might happen. You might like have this idea, right? Like I was thinking a leaf dropping from a tree, but now I'm like, oh, that looks like a dove. So I could kind of incorporate that in and maybe hang it this way. So that's what we call a unintentional, I guess you would say, development in the work. You didn't intend it, but it's working. You have to kind of feel what you're doing. You have to be intuitive. You need to pretty much just be open to new possibilities. So I'm gonna make this a bird because I like it like that. I'm gonna add more, and I might even add some little wings coming off of here, which I think would look cool. All right, so I'm not gonna do any more. This is already a 12-minute video. I think this is good for today. You guys can just get this far, and then next art class, we'll talk about assembly and using the wire and all that stuff. All right, have fun. Good luck. Let's get to it.